Hi, welcome to Focus on Africa, the pulse of the continent, where AI, tech, and the economy converge to shape the future of the continent. Starting with the biggest story, CAF has officially stripped Senegal of their African Cup of Nations title, overturning the pitch result and crowning Morocco 2025 champions by a 3-0 forfeit. The trophy is moving, the record books are being rewritten, and Africa football will never be the same. Here is why the unthinkable happened. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, Appeal Board issued this landmark ruling on 17th March 2026, nearly 2 months after the final whistle. While Senegal won the match 1-0 in extra time on the pitch, the victory was voided due to specific breach of tournament regulations. 1. The walk-off violation. During the final in Rabat on 18 January 2026, Senegal's players and coaching staff left the pitch for approximately 15 to 20 minutes in a protest after a late VAR awarded penalty was given to Morocco. Number 2. Article 82 and 84, CAF cited these specific regulations, which state that any team that refuses to play or leaves the ground before the regular end of the match without the authorization of the referee is considered the loser and effectively disqualified in the final. The forfeit rule. Under these rules, even though Senegal returned to the field and eventually won the game, the act of mid-game walk-off triggered an automatic 3-0 administrative defeat. Moving on, the global conversation about Africa's economy usually starts with what is broken, but this week, we are starting with what is being built. In a factory outside Casablanca, engineers are completing landing gear components for Airbus A320 aircraft. By the end of this year, those parts will cross the Mediterranean by ferry and arrive at Airbus assembly lines in Toulouse, France by Monday morning. The plant belongs to Safran, one of the world's largest aerospace manufacturers. The investment, 200 million euros. The location, Morocco. Now, let's talk about who is quietly buying Africa's future. Japan. Not through loans, not through aid, through equity, direct investment into African startups at a growth stage. In early 2026, Japanese industrial firm Mushai Semichu bagged Akride, a Kenyan electric vehicle company. Daiwa House Industry invested in solar technology, a drone-based health logistics startup, and a consortium of Japanese co-investors joined a $50 million round in Breadfast, Egypt's fast-growing quick commerce platform. In 2025, Japan's interest was concentrated in fintech. By 2026, it has pivoted into hardware, infrastructure, logistics, and mobility, the sectors that form the physical backbone of an economy. This is not a coincidence. That is a strategy. 15 years ago, China entered Africa through ports, roads, and railways. Japan is entering through the startup layer, the companies that will control how goods move, how health is delivered, and how cities function across the continent in the next 20 years. African government, trade ministers, and competition regulators should be paying very close attention. The question of who owns Africa digital infrastructure is the same question as who owns its pipelines. It just looks different on a pitch deck. Now to artificial intelligence. In 2025, Africa received 0.02% of global AI investment, $40 million out of the $47 billion raised worldwide. That number has been quoted to argue that Africa is absent from the AI revolution. That framing is wrong and dangerously misleading. Truth is, Africa's AI deployment is invisible to the global capital because global capital doesn't know how to see it. The classification problem is a footnote. If you cannot be counted, you cannot be funded. If you cannot be funded, you cannot scale. Africa's AI story is real. It just isn't being told in a language that global investors recognize yet. Which brings us to the infrastructure question. You cannot run AI without power. You cannot run AI without data centers. And right now, a race is underway to build the physical computing layer of Africa's digital economy. And the stakes are enormous. Morocco has emerged as the continent's most aggressive data center destination. Over 23 facilities are now being operational. Rivaling South Africa, a South Korean consortium led by Neva has announced a 500 megawatt data center campus in Dakar, one of the largest ever planned on the continent, designed to fit computing demand across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And then there is Google. This week, applications opened for the 10th cohort of Google's for Startups Accelerator Africa, the longest running Silicon Valley program of its kind on the continent. 180 startups, 17 countries, 12 years, no equity taken. This year's cohort marks a deliberate pivot towards AI first and deep tech companies, reflecting what Google describes as Africa's shift from consumer applications to research-driven innovation in health, finance, logistics, and education. Google has committed $1 billion to Africa's digital transformation. The program is free. The tools, the mentorship, the cloud, credits, all free. Here is a question nobody is asking loudly enough. Free for whom? Every startup that passes through Google program is trained on Google's tools, built on Google's cloud, shaped by Google's products priorities. 180 of Africa's most promising tech companies now have Google's architecture embedded in their foundation. That is not a scandal, but it is a strategic reality, and it is the same tension that runs through every story this week. Bringing this to an end, the capital is coming, the infrastructure is being built. The question Africa must answer now and not later is whether this generation of builders will own what they create. Whether a decade from now we will be having the same conversations we have about our oil, about our minerals, and about every resource this continent has ever produced for someone else's benefit. Through this, the technology revolution is arriving in Africa. The only open question is on whose terms. This is Research Global, with focus on Africa, the pulse of the continent, where AI, tech, and the economy converge to shape the future of the continent for the people and by the people of Africa.